Hello again. Welcome to our study. Explain this. Our text is taken from Matthew chapter 13 and verse 33, a very simple passage, one of the parables, but it begs a little bit of explaining. Matthew 13 and 33, another parable he's spoken to them. The kingdom of heaven is like an leaven, which a woman took and hid in 3 measures of meal until the whole was leavened. Well, the shortest of these parables, it has significant meanings. To understand this short verse, we need to refer to a passage. We're going to find that in Genesis chapter 18. See, in this passage, Abraham is graced by 3, and we'll term it heavenly visitors. Abraham's actions allow for an additional understanding of this particular parable. Looking at the text from Genesis 18, the first 8 verses, here's how we read it. Later the Lord appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre, as Abraham was sitting near the entrance to his tent during the hottest part of the day. He glanced up and saw 3 men standing there not far from him. As soon as he noticed them, Abraham ran from the tent entrance to greet them and bowed down to the ground. My lords, he told them, if I found favor with you, please don't leave your servant. I'll have some water brought to wash your feet while you rest under the tree. See, that was culture. You did that to honored guests. Verse 5, I'll bring some food for you, and after that you may continue your journey since you have come to visit your servant. So they replied, okay, do what you've proposed. Verse 6, Abraham hurried to the tent and told Sarah, quick, take 3 measures the best flour, knead it, and make some flat bread. Verse 7, Abraham ran to the herd, found a choice and tender calf, and gave it to the young men who went off in a hurry to prepare it. Then he took curds, milk, and the calf that had been prepared, placed the food in front of them, and stood near them under the tree while they ate. But the issue here is verse number 6. Take 3 measures of the best flour, knead it, and make some flat bread. Okay, and we're talking about leaven here. Well, what is leaven? We find that verse again. Take 3 measures of the blessed flour, knead it, and make some flat bread. To the Jews, this became known as the friendship or peace offering. It's understanding this culturally significant custom is what's important here. See, to the Jews, the very idea, as this passage, that one would take 3 measures of leaven and place it in a meal that was to be offered to a trusted friend. You wouldn't do that. It was completely unthinkable. Why would you do that? Well, within the pages of the Bible, the word leaven is usually associated with sin. To place a sinful entity into a meal that is offered to a familiar companion is simply inconceivable. You wouldn't think of doing something like that. See, why would a person pollute a meal that is consecrated to a devoted acquaintance with something that is referenced as sinful? That is the question. And to try to understand this parable, we need to explain the word leaven. Well, here's just a note. Unleavened bread is any of a wide variety of breads which are not prepared with raising agents. Unleavened breads are generally flat breads. However, not all flat breads are unleavened. Unleavened breads have a symbolic importance in Judaism and Christianity. The use of leaven was strictly forbidden in all offerings made to the Lord by fire. During the Passover, the Jews were commanded to put out every particle of leaven from their house. Prominent idea associated with leaven in connection with the corruption as it relates to bread is the process of its fermentation. It is to this property of leaven that Jesus points to when he speaks of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Jesus was stating that the righteousness and the doctrine of the Pharisees was corrupted or sinful. Leaven, therefore, was associated with sinful acts or beliefs. And again, leaven was associated with sinful acts or sinful beliefs. Well, today we know leaven is yeast. Yeah, you can buy it at the grocery store. Leaven rises or puffs up, and so does the very nature of sin. Once it begins, it's always impossible to stop. We see all through the Bible where sin is attributed to leaven. Well, leaven is often a reference to sin. It corrupts by puffing up. Lucifer, the most beautiful of all angels, allowed pride to enter in and corrupt his mind and soul. You see, pride is the very strength of sin. Pride is what makes sin so hard to overcome. You see, we are powerless to control it on our own. To place something that is a symbol of sin in a friendship meal would be inconceivable to any Jew who entertained a close friend. You see, sin has no place within such a friendship. But that doesn't answer the question. What does it mean? Why are we taking leaven and putting it in a friendship offering? What is the meaning? Well, your scholars go back and forth on this, and there are lots of opinions, but there's a lot we can do with this parable. Simply stated, parables are endless as far as their meaning. But I'm going to offer one for you. First, the kingdom of God may have small beginnings, but it will increase. Yeast is microscopic in size and only has a little is needed into the dough. Yet given time, this yeast will spread throughout all the dough. In the same way, Jesus' domain started with 12 men in an obscure little corner of Galilee, and has spread throughout the entire world. You see, the gospel makes its progress. Secondly, the kingdom of God exerts its influence from within, not from without. Yeast makes dough rise from within. God first changes the heart of a person, and that internal change has eternal, external manifestations. The gospel influence is a culture, and a culture works the same way. Christians within a culture act as an agent of change, slowly transforming that culture from within. And one final thought. There will be no leaven in heaven. I hope that helps. We'll see you on the next one. Be blessed and be safe.